So one of the videos that I've been seeing going around BookTube recently is people talking about the trends that they want to leave in 2024. It had me thinking, if we want to leave these in 2024, what are we going to be seeing in 2025? So today I'm going to try to predict some trends that I think we'll see in the bookish community in 2025. And I've come up with 9 predictions, and I think a lot of these predictions, they are going to kind of play into each other. A lot of them I think are going to influence the other. But without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first prediction is that I think sustainability is going to be a bigger topic in 2025 for the book community. And I think the way that it's going to play out in bookish spaces is that I think people are going to be more considerate about what type of physical books they're buying. And I think that plays into sustainability, but I think it also plays into another prediction that I'll talk about here in a minute. I think people are just being more cognizant of what they're spending their money on, and if they're being wasteful or not. So for example, I think a lot of people have a lot of unread books on their shelves. I may or may not be included. And so the way that I see this playing out in content in the bookish space is book hauls are so popular just based on views and all of that. But because they're so popular, I don't see them going away. I do think we'll see a shift in people doing different types of book hauls though. So I think people will start doing more library hauls, more what is on my Kindle or what I downloaded from Kindle Unlimited. I think we'll also see more people ramp back up little free libraries and them doing these little free library adventures and just doing a haul based on what they got. Maybe they're doing the haul after they get rid of some of the books that they have on their shelves. So I think people are just going to be a little bit more mindful of what they're picking up. I think a lot of people talk about consumerism in the book community, and I think a lot of us are guilty of it, especially in a bookish space. Like, you want to feel like I always have something to talk about, especially if you're in a space where you don't want to read all of those books right now, but you need some sort of content. Book hauls are usually where people go. So I think people are going to just start to get a little bit more creative on how they do those book hauls. But yeah, I think sustainability in general is just going to be a trend that we see in a lot of different areas and industries. But I think there's been a lot of environmental factors that have recently opened up people's eyes into sustainability. So it's something that I think is going away anytime soon, thankfully. But that's kind of how I think it's going to play out in the bookish space. And then trend number 2 is the rise or the resurgence of long form content. If you're someone who likes watching BookTube or YouTube in general, you're gonna be like, girl, it never went away from me. Because I know that's how I am. So obviously with the popularity of TikTok, short form content has really been something that a lot of platforms have been pushing. And I feel like with the growth of Book Talk, people are really putting a lot of their energy there. However, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We don't know if TikTok is going to be around in the US for that much longer. I think people now that we're on TikTok, Book Talk are trying to make their way to YouTube and BookTube. But before TikTok going away was like a real thing that we had to face, they were actually starting to test longer form content on their platform. So they were giving some creators the ability to make, 5, 10, 15, 20-minute videos even. And so to me, that kind of tells me that they were also starting to see a shift towards long form content. And I'm not saying the short form content is going to go away at all. I think people are still going to try to use Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts maybe, but let me know down below in the comments if you actually watch YouTube Shorts, because I know I don't. I also think that because we all as a society have been so ingrained in short form content in TikTok, that I think a lot of us are starting to realize the brain rot that's kind of coming from it and the lack of connection that is happening because of TikTok, because of social media in general. And I think you can get a connection and get to know a creator more, get to know a person more when they have longer form content. So yeah, I think there's going to be a shift to long form content for the book community specifically, which also brings me into my third trend, which is longer and just more meaningful reviews. So I feel like there has been a conversation in the book community about book talkers not giving full reviews, reading for the aesthetic only, giving recommendations without any context. Now that I think, going back to sustainability, that people are being more mindful of what books they're actually buying, they want to make sure that the book that they're spending their money on is going to be worth it. And so I think now that Book Talk has kind of had this image of just kind of quick reviews and not really giving meaningful content, people saying things like, oh, this book has too many words. I think because we saw so much of that, people are now shifting towards the other end, and they want really meaningful, thought out book reviews. There is going to be just a shift of people and viewers asking for more thought out, really critical or really glowing reviews of books to determine if they actually want to read it or not. And so now we are into trend number 4. And I mentioned this need for community as well as this, I think, resurgence of long form content. And I think that lends into this next trend, which is the cozy genre, but in real life. And so what I mean by that is we've seen a rise of cozy mystery, cozy fantasy, all of these cozy genres. And a lot of those settings take place in bookshops, in cafes. And I think a lot of people are really gravitating towards cozy content, cozy genres, is because they are looking for some type of escape or some type of feeling of community. And so I think people are really needing a third place, which is essentially just somewhere that's not at home, that's not at work, but you can feel comfortable, safe, and in a community, right? And, you know, I think we've seen a resurgence of physical bookstores, which I absolutely love. Barnes & Noble's opening up 50 new bookstores in the new year. I know I live in a fairly big metroplex, and there have been a lot of independently owned bookstores that are opening up. I also know that there was a viral bookstore from New York last year. I can't remember the name of it, but it went viral because essentially it was a bar where people could go in and read at night. I think it's telling that that was so popular to people and that we're seeing more bookshops open, that people are looking for that cozy vibe, somewhere they can go chill and read in real life. And I think the genres that people read and what they're seeking is an indicator of that. Okay, and then these next few trends, they may seem a little niche, okay? And I understand that, but follow me, walk with me, okay? So the 5th trend I want to talk about is book-related DIY or book-related art on BookTube specifically, okay? I'm kind of leaving TikTok out of this conversation right now just because we don't know the future of it, right? And so if TikTok goes away, there are a lot of small businesses on there that their whole business is almost run through TikTok. All of their marketing is done through TikTok. And so I think they're going to be looking for a space that helps replace that. And so I can see a lot of these small bookish related businesses moving over to YouTube. And so they can maybe do a behind the scenes of their bookish business. You know, maybe do some giveaways and stuff on YouTube. I think also there may just be more one-off videos from everyday book content creators of just doing bookish crafts, bookish DIYs. So that can include painting book covers, you know, making your own book cover. I think that can include making your own bookmarks. Like I know the other day on TikTok, I saw a girl who did like a bookmark purse where it was a bookmark but had a chain on it so you could carry your book as a purse. Geniuses still exist. But I think we'll see some of those people shift into BookTube, and I think it could actually be a really cool space for them to start getting into. I know personally, I love seeing behind the scenes content of businesses and how they're run. I think a lot of other people do too, because I think a lot of YouTubers do day in my life, behind the scenes of a full-time content creator. And so I think if these people decide to move over, they could be really successful, because I watch the behind the scenes of someone who does blind date with a book. I want to know the logistics of someone who does book boxes, okay? Like I want to know all of that stuff. And so I would follow a content creator that does that. And so again, because some of that traffic is going to get lost if TikTok goes away, I think we'll see a shift to BookTube. Even if TikTok doesn't go away, I think this has scared people enough to diversify where they're putting their content at. So yeah, another one that I'm hoping we'll see in 2025. And trend number 6, talking about new and upcoming types of book influencers. Hear me out. I think LinkedIn is going to be one of the new hotspots for book creators, and it's obviously going to be for a specific type of book creator, right? I think if you're someone who reads a lot of nonfiction, if you read a lot of general fiction, I think LinkedIn could be a really cool place for you to become an influencer. LinkedIn has been testing video, short form video on their platform. There are already people on LinkedIn who are influencers on there. And I think having book influencers on there does just kind of feel like the natural next step. You know, people are always looking to better themselves on LinkedIn, to better their career, better their frame of mind. And I think a lot of those people really like using LinkedIn as a social media platform. And so I think if you are someone who really niches into those, I would say maybe give LinkedIn a go. I think getting in on the ground floor right now could be really lucrative. You also have to think a lot of businesses are already on there just because of the nature of LinkedIn. And they know that people are circulating on that platform a lot. So businesses are probably going to be looking for people to sponsor and to pay and to do all of that. So that's a niche one. That's a niche one, but we'll see. Okay, and so trend number 7. I think erotica is going to be making a comeback. And so I feel like with this resurgence of romance and spicy books and smut books, that the line is starting to get a little blurred between books that are actually romance and then books that are actually just erotica, right? Because I think some people who read romance don't want a whole bunch of spice or smut. They actually just want to read it for the romance, right? And then there's some people who want something in between. And then there's some people who are just like, yo, get to it. And so I feel like there is a space for erotica. I understand that a lot of creators deem something spicy or smut just because on certain platforms the word erotica gets demonetized, I guess, which I hope YouTube doesn't have a problem with me saying erotica. I'm not monetized, so I don't really care about demonetization because irrelevant. But I think part of that conversation too, when it comes to romance versus spicy or erotica, is this conversation about like the book covers, right? Because you know, in the past, you know, our grandmas would be reading erotica and it'd be a man with his shirt off all sweaty and you're like, oh, I know what you're reading, right? And of course, people started to not want it to be so obvious that they're reading that type of book. So we started to move into these like cartoon covers, which I do really like because it's like, you don't need to be all up in my business like that if I do decide to read erotica. But I also think we have to be careful because those cartoon covers to me sometimes read a little young. And so if it's a cartoon cover where the spice is 18 plus, I think it's important that there is some type of indicator of that, not only for younger people who may be into romance, but also just for people who just don't want to be reading that, right? So I mean, I don't think we should change the covers. I personally do really like the cartoonish covers, but I would love to see publishers start having some type of age rating on the back by the barcode or just some type of color indicator saying like, yeah, this is pretty spicy, you know, so it doesn't ruin the aesthetic of the book and the cover. And, you know, you still have some discreetness if you do want to read erotica. But I think it's just important that there is like some type of distinction there. And I think more people in the book community are wanting that distinction, right? So I think, I don't know if the genre is still going to be called erotica or if we're just going to lean into the word spicy or smut. But I would love to see like Goodreads, Storygraph, Fable start to try and push that genre because I do feel like it's separate from romance. So we're almost to the end. Trend number 8 is integrating reading with working out. And I decided to put this on the list because Peloton recently integrated Kindle into their platform. So if you have a Peloton, you can pull up your Kindle app and read a book while you're riding your bike, while you're going for a run, all of that. And I just feel like that's really fascinating. I also think with the rise of people listening to audiobooks, a lot of people listen to audiobooks while they're working out, and they're moving their body, they're going for a walk. And so because Peloton did it, I could see a couple of other companies do it, but I can also see a few influencers really niching out into reading and working out and combining those two. Or I could just see, again, some people who just have a general booktube having specific videos around what books they like to listen to while they work out, or work out with me for a week as I read these 2 books. Help me try and reach my fitness goals this year as I also reach my reading goals. Something along that line. I can just see that starting to mesh together. Again, very niche, but it's a prediction nonetheless. All right, so that brings us to our last prediction on this list. And I know you may be thinking, Bria has not talked about AI, not once. Well, here we go. And so I do think the topic of AI is going to make an appearance in the book community. However, I don't think it's going to be around AI covers. I don't think it's going to be around books being written by AI. I think it's going to be AI audiobook narration. If you have the budget and you work with a really big publisher, then you can probably get an actual audiobook narrator or an audiobook actress, actor. But for people with small budgets, why not let AI do it? But I think it's going to depend on the quality of the AI and if people can tell that it's AI when they're listening to the book. And so if it's done well, it may not be a topic because people aren't going to realize that it's AI narrating their book. But if it isn't done well, I can see it drumming up some drama or some conversation in the book community. I do feel like AI isn't horrible in all aspects depending on how it's being used, right? So I'm curious to see if that kind of makes a splash in the book community or not. So that wraps up my 2025 Bookish community predictions. I really want to know what you guys think about these predictions or what things you want to see in 2025. Things like this are just so fascinating to me, you know? Who knows if I'm right in any of this? I may be a witch. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out in 2026 if any of these come true or if I'm accurate in any of these. And so if you made it to the end of this video, leave some type of star emoji because maybe I'm able to read the stars for this. I don't know. But as always, you are my favorite, my little tater tot, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.